What's up, Gear Muggles? Troy Xavier from Equipment Lords here. Today I'm going to show you how to put together a metal rig for under 500 bucks.
What's up, Gear Mortals? Trey Xavier here.
And Pete Cottrell.
And we are at Thomann in Germany, and we are going to find you in somewhere in all of this, the $500 metal guitar rig. Check it out. So where are we going to start? Do we want to start with the guitar, with the amp, or with the cab?
Guitar.
The guitar, okay. So should we 6, 7, 8, split the difference and get a 7?
7.
7?
7's pretty metal.
I mean, I play 7, you play 7 a lot. We both like 7 strings. All right, so we have to find a 7-string guitar that either is under like $250 so we don't blow our whole budget, because then we still have to get an amp and a cab. I mean, we're looking at a very narrow number of brands here. Thomann is famous for their Harley Benton guitars that are very, very cheap, and I've played some that I've liked a lot. So for 500 bucks for a whole rig, you can't be that picky. You're not going to get a custom shop anything.
No.
So let's go
But
check out.
You can still find quality.
You can still find quality, and if we're talking about basically a beginner rig, you're going to do just fine with this. All right, so let's go check out the Harley Bentons then. This is like the metal pointy-ass axes section of Thomann in the guitar section. Look at all those pointy bastards. What you like? What are you looking like? I mean...
Okay, well all these are Harley Bentons over here. We want a 7, right?
Yeah.
That's a neck through.
Neck throughs are usually a little bit more expensive. But let's see. Well, let's take a look. What's the price? This one's $269, which... That's a little too much. $269, that's half of our budget. I don't want to say that we shouldn't blow half of our budget on the guitar, because that's pretty important, but then we're stuck with not as good of an amp as we'd like. Okay.
I feel the amp is probably more important.
You think the amp is more important?
Yeah. Than
All
the
right.
guitar.
I'm inclined to agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've picked something up off the wall.
Trey, you like white guitars, right?
I do like white guitars.
You like
so
7 strings, right?
I'm happy. This one is literally called the Progressive.
Yep.
It says a Progressive.
How much is this?
So
This is 139 euros.
I don't know if we're gonna get much better than that. Well,
I think that's a winner.
it looks good. It's a nice hardtail bridge, 7 strings. It's obviously made for the prog metal crowd, and that's right up our alley. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, let's go through
Okay,
it.
so now we gotta find an amp and a cab. It's possible that those could be the same thing. We could get a combo. We've got what's left.
I'm going to do some maths.
So
500.
here's our starting budget, 500.
500 minus 139 leaves us with 361 quid.
Ideally, we could get, I'd like to be able to get an amp, a cab, and a pedal.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's pushing it for 500. You can get in front of a crowd and jam good sounding metal without an overdrive, but if we can do it, let's do it. All right, we got some little boys over here. This one's still more than our whole budget, as is the Dual Terror and the Dark Terror. Here we got a bunch of mini boys, and not just Pete, who is just as tall as he was born to be.
Fuck you, Trey.
And so we've got tiny amps. Now, you know, that's kind of what we're stuck with. That's okay. Tiny doesn't mean bad or not loud. Look at these companies making these little tiny amps. Palmer, Harley Benton, Moore. Over here we've got a Hotone. This is tiny. This Vox, this series, they're 50 watts in this tiny little size. That's out of control. I know they have a more metal one somewhere. More Hotone. The PV Piranha 6505. Notoriously not that great sounding, but once again, beggars can't be choosers. And it's based on the 6505, which is, of course, metal as all get out. And then we have the Joyo Bantamp series. I personally have a good amount of experience with these. Have you ever tried one, Pete?
Yep. Really wanted to.
The zombie one is very metal, but the question is, do they have one here? They've got the Jackman, which is the JCM clone. The Meteor is the orange clone. And then, of course, we've got the Micro Terror, which is actually an orange amp. 20 watts. The Joyos are also 20 watts. And I have played through them loud enough to kill a fully grown bull elephant at 20 paces. What the fuck is this? Is all I have to say. This one looks dumb enough that I probably wouldn't buy it. Here's a AC30 that's 50. That's hilarious. So this is they call it the AC, but it's 50 watts. The original AC30 is 30.
That thing there you're looking at is called the little tank. B15. So I'm guessing it's 15 watts.
And
So 199.
damn. That's even more expensive than the Joyo ones. Okay, we've got little baby DV Marks. Vox ADO Air GT is within our budget, $289, but that's not metal at all.
Black Star ID core.
Head?
Yeah,
How much?
119.
Is that it down there?
Actually 129.
This is 129.
Is that what it is?
Stereo 40.
40 watt head, but is it metal?
I've gotten some pretty metal sounds out of mine. I have like the practice amp size version. I'm willing to try. I had no idea this was so cheap. Really? That's
what it says.
all right. That's it.
That's it.
All right. This is actually the cheapest one so far. And if it's the same as mine, yeah, it's got some pretty metal sounds in there. All right. So we've basically been through now every cab in the place. And the only one that even remotely fits our budget is this Harley Benton 212. Now, Glenn has covered this on his channel. He's got one. It's got vintage 30s in it, which is kind of absurd that they could put a pair of vintage 30s in it, because if I go and buy two vintage 30s, it already costs $200 plus. And this cab is how much? 222, well, euros. So that's out of control, and I think that we need at least a 212 to perform live. A 212 is fine, and a 112 is definitely not enough. So we need a 212. This one's within our budget. It's got speakers that we know are great, and so by necessity, we are going to go with the Harley Benton Celestion 212. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No.
Let's do it. So we started with 500.
500.
Less the 139 for the guitar.
139.
And then
minus
222 for the cab. Leaves us with our budget for our head and possibly pedal, which is
139.
139, which is how much the guitar was.
Yeah.
Okay, so that leads us to a couple of conclusions. Number one, we can't get the Joyo head.
We can't get the Joyo.
It's outside of our budget. The Black Star head is within our budget.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it might be kind of a better beginner head anyways, only because it's a little bit louder and it's got a bunch of built-in effects, and then we don't have to have pedals
like that, yeah.
and effects at all.
Yeah.
All right, so there it is. There's our $500 rig. So we're here at Thomann Gearhead University, and we're at the Thomann store, basically. And the warehouse is right next door. We have access to all of their 90,000 different kinds of products. So we decided that we would put together a cheap metal rig. Yeah. $500, which is, in this case, euros, which is not very much, we discovered, to put together a whole rig. So we did our absolute best, and we decided on the following pieces of gear, as you probably saw in our little walk around the store. So we're going to start with the guitar. So Thomann has a brand called Harley Benton. I don't know who this Harley Benton character is.
The elusive Harley Benton.
The elusive Harley Benton decided that he was going to make sure that anybody who wanted a guitar could be able to afford one. And unlike a lot of like the super cheap brands that I've tried, the incredibly cheap guitars are actually pretty dang good. So we wanted a 7-string. We wanted a metal guitar, of course, so we needed humbuckers. And it just happened to be in my favorite guitar color and fretboard wood. So I'm a happy camper. And Pete, how much is this guitar?
This guitar is 139 euros.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's something like 150, 60 something. So cheap guitar.
Not a lot of money at all.
Not a lot of money. It's fine though. I've been playing it for a couple hours here, and it's The action is incredibly low, maybe a little bit too low, but with a little bit of a setup, maybe some better strings on here, and you'd have yourself a decent 7-string. I'm not going to say that it's great, but for the price, it makes sound. If you're looking for bare knuckle pickups, neck through, and your choice of colors, you're gonna have to spend a lot more money than.
Not gonna happen at this price.
It's not gonna happen.
It's just impossible.
We tried. So this is pretty cool. I think if you're just starting out and you've only got $500 to spend on your whole rig, a pretty good guitar is an incredible place to start. So I'll play it a little bit more as we go, and you'll get to hear it a bit more. So what's next, Pete? What's next on the docket?
Next we have this. I have to read this because it's quite a long name. Blackstar ID Core Stereo 40-watt Amplifier Head. So this is like the cheapest. It wasn't quite the cheapest, I think. No, it was the cheapest. It was absolutely the cheapest. It was between this and I think the Joyo Zombie.
Yeah.
And we couldn't quite fit the Joyo Zombie in our budget, so this is what we went with. And it's a stereo 40-watt head. Mm-hmm. It's got some built-in effects.
So it's twice as powerful, twice as many watts as the Joyo.
As the Joyo. And less expensive.
Less expensive. Now, you don't necessarily need more. I mean, 40 watts versus 20 watts in terms of like sheer volume, not a huge difference.
Does the Joyo have any built-in effects?
It does not.
So it says a 1-up on it then.
Yeah, so this is actually a modeling amp. It's got 6 different sounds, I think. 2 overdrive, super crunch, clean bright, and clean warm. And it's got 3 built-in effects. Modulation, which is a couple different kinds of things. 4 different delays and 4 different reverb sounds, all built into the head itself. And USB out, which you can tweak the sounds in the software and record direct.
There's software that comes with this.
There's software, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And I think it comes with like a beginner version of Studio One as well.
Everything you need to get started.
Yeah. So overall, for the value, this is for sure the better amp. Mm-hmm. In terms of the tone, I think the Zombie is better. Mm-hmm. If you want to have a $550 budget, if you're only playing metal, you don't need any clean. I mean, actually, the Zombie does have a good clean tone, but it doesn't have a foot switch, so you can't switch the channels. That's a downside. This has a foot switch hole jack. Got a foot switch hole jack, and some more controls. Also, so there's just a single EQ knob on here. But in the software, you can tweak individual parameters more so. And then you can save patches. And I actually don't know how the foot switch works. I never tried it, but...
I imagine you kick it.
You kick it and
it does things.
God damn it. God damn it, Pete! Yeah, so exactly. But I don't know if it's a 2-button, 4-button. I don't know if you can save patches. And then it's probably a lot more involved than just the Joyo, which is set it and forget it. But so I did a review of the 20-watt practice amp version of this, okay? And I got so many compliments on the tone that I got for the full mix demo. I couldn't believe it. I was like, I mean, I thought it sounded pretty good, but everybody on the internet was like, damn! And I don't know if they were just impressed because it was this big and it sounded like that. But anyway, so yeah, you can get a direct out. Either for going direct to front of house, although it's an 1/8" jack. I don't know if you're gonna tell an audio engineer at the front of house jack. Like, hey, do you have an 1/8" to 1/4" so that I can get DI? But if you want to record that way, you can. It's also got a line in.
Which is always useful to practice.
Yeah, you plug in your phone with some songs to jam along to. Boom, there you go. So let's take a quick hop through some of the sounds that we got going on here. So we're on OD1 right now, which we figured out is the best one for metal.
I'm going to sweep left to right on the EQ.
All right. gain.
Gain.
So, right now, this guitar is a little plinky. It's a little spanky. It's something you can kind of expect from a probably, I want to say, Chinese-made guitar or Philippines.
Probably Chinese, mate.
That just, you expect to have to put a little bit of setup into it, which kind of sucks if you're a beginner. But then again...
If you're a beginner, you won't notice that kind of stuff.
You might not notice it, exactly. So, this is actually set up pretty close to how I would set it up, except that it's just a little too low, so it's going...
Slap, 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 slap.
Slap, 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 slap. If you want to play slap guitar, this is the jam. All right, cool. So let's kick on the delay. Okay, that's the first delay sound. What's the next one there? Cool. That was like a vintage.
It's still going.
Okay, that's neat.
There we go.
All right, cool. Give me a little bit. Give me that reverb too. Let's just go through it real quick. Man, that last one's always the endless ring
Extreme
out.
one.
So you can have 3 of those effects on at the same time: mod, delay, and reverb. So that's pretty dope. For the price, this is incredible, really.
It's like an all-in-one package.
Yeah, and especially if you're just starting out, that's something that you need. And I think it sounds better than a lot of the cheap modeling amps out there. It sounds a lot better than the Line 6 Spider. You could play a show with this for sure. What's our budget at right now? What have we spent so far on these 2 things?
We have spent 139 on the guitar, 129 on the amp, and we have, I think, my maths is probably wrong, but I think 232 left.
232. Yeah. So that leaves us with 232 currency units left on something that we're going to plug this into that will reproduce sound frequencies. You know what I mean? Like this by itself, I know it's got this little like grill on the front here. Oh, you can't see it. Well, anyway, there's a grill. Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay. So there's like this grill thing on the front. There's no speakers in here. Don't put a mic up to this and hope that you're going to get sound. It's not going to happen. So we need speakers. We need speakers, Pete!
For that, we have... Actually, do we have a camera on these?
Oh. We will in a second. Please, Mr. Harry, if you could just turn the camera to the cabs. That was a good song that I just wrote. It's just gone #1 in the UK. All the kiddies are singing, could you please turn the camera to the cab, Mr. Harry?
It's #1 on top of the pops.
So, once again, we went through every cab at Thomann. We looked at all of them. We looked at every price. We broke it down as best we possibly could. And then we took a look at our budget and saw that there was only one 212 in our budget.
And that was the Harley Benton 212 behind us, which is actually at the Gearhead University, is in the rooms already.
Yeah.
And already mic'd up. I don't know what the speakers in it.
They are Celestion Vintage 30s, which are standard, run-of-the-mill, everybody's favorite metal
Solid choice.
speakers. Okay, I've got them in most of the cabs that I use or have used.
Me too.
They're great, and more importantly, they're like at least $110 or $115 each just for the speakers, which the speakers by themselves, if you just bought them, would cost more than the
actual cab itself, which was 222 euros.
222. I don't know how they do that, but their margins must be incredibly low, and you should take advantage of that fact. They probably get just an incredible bulk discount on those speakers, and so you can start gigging pretty much right away with a cab like this. A 212 cab, in my opinion, is base, just the smallest speaker size that you could play a gig with if you're not going direct.
112 won't do it.
112 just won't do it, especially for metal.
No.
If you're playing basically anything else, except for heavy music,
I mean, why play anything else?
I don't know. Because you think you could get something cheaper and smaller. If you're lazy like me, you don't like carrying things. I don't think you need a 412. I think a 412 is overkill. Most metal guys will cry and disagree with me.
I don't like 412s.
Yeah,
They're heavy.
they're heavy as hell. I did 1 month-long tour where we had to carry 4 cabs up and down the stairs between the 2 bands.
Always up and downstairs as well.
Right?
Yeah.
Miserable. Never again. I swore that day, every day for 30 days, never to buy a 412. So 212s for me. Plus, you could get 2 212s and stack them on top of each other if you want. Same general effect. So we've got this 212, and I mean, you're going to have to tell me how you think it sounds. I think it sounds pretty good.
Sounds pretty solid, at least in the room. It sounds sounds quite solid.
You know, these aren't quite laboratory conditions, but you know, we've got a really good mic, a Sennheiser on there, micing up the cab, and
I've certainly heard worse.
We've definitely heard worse
for a lot more money as well.
Yeah. So this is a $500 live rig. You know, if you're recording, all you need is the guitar, a cable, and an interface. And then software.
Some software to back it up.
Yeah, but if you're playing a show, you need enough wattage to be heard, a speaker to be heard through, and a guitar that isn't going to take a shit on stage. So for a bare bones $500 metal rig, I think we did pretty good. Oh, and we didn't even spend all our budget yet, have we?
We have
How much we got left?
We have 10 euros left.
10 euros left, with which we purchased this fine quality Ernie Ball strap. It's the most basic one you can get. It's basically like a seatbelt, but it'll hold your guitar onto your body, and that's all you really need. So now that we've spent all our money, I think we had 250 euros left. So I guess it's time for some snacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Want to go get some snacks?
Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Snacks.
Thanks, y'all.
This isn't how doors work.